Salam students, let's begin with the today's session of Class 8 History. We are doing the revision of chapter number 7 of History, that is Civilizing the Native, Educating the Nation. Today we are doing the second part of this. Let's go through the content. In our content we have the topics introduction, how the British saw education, what happened to the local schools, the agenda for a local education. So children, we have started with the topic how the British saw education. In that we have already learned about the topic the tradition of Orientalism. Now we are going to learn the topic grave errors of the East. Now what is there in that grave errors? See, from the early 19th century, many British officials they began to criticize the Orientalist vision of learning. So they said that the knowledge of the East was full of errors and unscientific thought. Many British officials they criticized and they were of this mindset. And what did they say? They argued that it was wrong on the part of the British to spend so much efforts in encouraging the study of Arabic and Sanskrit language and literature. Then the James Mill was one of those who attacked the Orientalists. Now, what did he say? The British effort, he declared, should not be to teach what the natives wanted or what they respected in order to please them and win a place in their heart. So, what did he say? The aim of education ought to be to teach what was useful and practical. This was as per the James Mill. So, Indians should be familiar they should be made familiar with the scientific and the technical advances that the West had made rather than what the poetry and sacred literature of the Orient. So what did he say? By the 1830s, the attacks on the Orientalists became sharper. Then one of the most outspoken and influential of such critics of the time was Thomas Babington Macaulay, like the another critic now here, okay? He saw India as an uncivilized country that needed to be civilized. Now, what was his opinion? Let's see that. Macaulay said the very first thing he saw India as an uncivilized country, right? Then he thought that India need to be civilized. So he said no branch of Eastern knowledge, according to him, could be compared to what England had produced. So what did he say? Macaulay said a single shelf of a good European library was worth the whole native literature of India and Arabic. Then he also said that with great energy and passion, Macaulay emphasized the need to teach the English language. Then that is the reason, like he said that he felt that the knowledge of English would allow Indians to read some of the finest literature the world had produced. According to him, like the Indians should be made aware about the English language. He felt that the knowledge of English would allow Indians to read some of the finest literature the world had produced. It would make them aware of the developments in Western science and philosophy. Teachings of English could thus be a way of civilizing people, changing their taste, values, and culture. So, following Macaulay's minute, the English Education Act of 1835 was introduced. Now, what the decision was to make the English the medium for instructions for higher education and to stop the promotion of Oriental institutions like the Calcutta Madrasa and the Banaras Sanskrit College. Like he was in the favor that Oriental institutions should not be promoted. Okay, whereas he decided that the English should be made the medium of instruction for the higher education. So these institutions were seen as temples of darkness that were falling off themselves into decay. So English textbooks now begin to be produced for schools. Now let's move to the next topic, that is education for commerce. In 1854, the Court of Directors of the East India Company in London sent an educational dispatch to the Governor General in India, issued by Charles Wood, the president of the Board of Control of the company. It had come to be known as the Woods Dispatch. So, what was the policy related to this now? Outlining the educational policy that was to be followed in India. It emphasized once again the practical benefits of a system of European learning as opposed to Oriental knowledge. So, one of the practical uses the dispatch pointed to was economic. Then, European learning would enable Indians to recognize the advantages that flow from the expansion of trade and commerce. Then, introducing them to European ways of life would change their tastes and desires and create a demand for British goods. These all were given in that Woods Dispatch, okay? That was called as the Woods Dispatch. That policy was came to be known as the Woods Dispatch. So what did he say? And created a demand for the British goods. For Indians would begin to appreciate and buy things that were produced in Europe. It would make them truthful and honest and thus supply the company with civil servants who could be trusted and depended upon. This was the Woods Dispatch policy. So, following the 1854 dispatch, several measures were introduced. According to that, now the several measures were introduced by the British. Now, what were that? It was like education departments of the government was set up to extend control over all matters regarding education. Even the steps were taken to establish a system of university education. So, to have that system of the Bombay University, Calcutta University, and Madras University, that should be established. So in 1857, while the sepoys rose in revolt in Meerut and Delhi, universities were being established in Calcutta, Madras, and Bombay. Then the attempts were also made to bring about changes within the system of school education. This is what children we learnt in the topic. Now the next, the demand for moral education. Now here in this, William Carey, he was a Scottish missionary. What did he say? Who helped establish the Serampore mission. Now the argument for practical education was strongly criticized by the Christian missionaries in India in the 19th century. What did he say? What that missionaries were saying, like they felt that the education should attempt to improve the moral character of the people, as well as morality could be improved only through Christian education. This were the topics, things that were given in the Christian missionaries in India. They were believing like if we want to have the true education in the true sense, then the morality could be improved only through the Christian education. So until 1813, the East India Company was opposed to missionary activities in India. But unable to establish an institution within British controlled territories, what that missionaries, Christian missionaries, they did, the missionaries, they set up a mission at Serampore in an area under the control of the Danish East India Company. Then even a printing press was set up in 1800 and a college was established in the year 1818. Over the 19th century, missionary schools were set up all over India. Then after 1857, however, the British government in India was reluctant to directly support missionary education. There was a feeling that any strong attack on local customs, practices, beliefs, and religious ideas might enrage the native opinion. So this was the things that were, according to the Christian missionaries, that things were achieved. Now, what happened to the local schools after that? We are going to see in these two topics, that is the report of William Adam and the new routines, new rules. Now, do you have any idea of how children were taught in pre British times? Have you ever wondered whether they went to schools and if there were schools, what happened to these under British rule? Now, let's learn all these things in the report of William Adam. In the 1830s, William Adam, a Scottish missionary, he toured the districts of Bengal and Bihar. The report Adam produced is interesting. Now, what was there in that? See? According to him, the Adam found that there were over 1 lakh pathshalas in Bengal and Bihar. These were small institutions with no more than 20 students each, but the total number of children being taught in these pathshalas was considerable, over 20 lakhs. Now here the children, the image has been given to you of that village pathshala. This is the painting done by the Dutch painter. Now these institutions were set up by wealthy people or the local community. At times they were started by a teacher, that is also called as guru. But the system of education was flexible there. There were no fixed fee, no printed books, no separate school building, no benches or no chairs, no blackboards, no system of separate classes, no class roll call registers, no annual examinations, and no regular timetable. But in some places, classes were held under a banyan tree. In other places, in the corner of the village shop, or even in the temple or at the guru's home. These were the places where the classes, where the pathshalas were conducted. So the guru interacted separately with groups of children with different levels of learning. The teaching was oral and the guru decided what to teach in accordance with the needs of the students. Adam discovered that this flexible system was suited to local needs. For instance, he gave the example classes were not held during harvest time when rural children, they often go and help their parents in the fields. So at that time the classes were not conducted. The Pathshala started once again when the crops had been cut and stored. So this meant that even children of peasant families, they could also study there. But then after that, the new rules and the new routines and the new rules were fixed for the pathshalas. Now let's see what were the new routines and the new rules for the children. See, after 1854, the company decided to improve the system of vernacular education. So what they did, it felt that this could be done by introducing order within the system. See, whereas we have seen the village pathshala was having the different norms, right? Now here the changes that has been done by the Britishers. Let's see that. So they felt that this could be done by introducing order within the system, imposing routines, establishing rules, ensuring regular inspections. The company appointed a number of government pundits, each in charge of looking after 4 to 5 schools. Then what was the task, the work given to the pundits here? The task of the pandit was to visit the pathshalas and try and improve the standard of teaching. So each guru was asked to submit periodic reports and take classes according to a regular timetable. So this each guru was asked to do the things according to they were supposed to submit the periodic reports as well as take classes according to the regular timetable. Teaching was now to be based on textbooks and learning was to be tested through a system of annual examination. So tests were conducted by the pundits there. Students were asked to pay a regular fee, attend regular classes, sit on fixed seats and obey the new rules of discipline. So these were the changes that were brought about in the pathshalas. Pathshalas which accepted the new rules were supported through government grants. Over time, Gurus who wanted to retain their independence, they found it difficult to compete with the government aided and the regulated pathshalas. So the new rules and routines had another consequence also. Now, what was that? The discipline of the new system demanded regular attendance. So, as in village parshal, there was flexibility, right? During harvest time, the children were not asked to come to school. But here, as it was regular attendance, even during harvest time, when children of poor families had to work in the fields, so inability to attend school came to be seen as indiscipline, as evidence of the lack of desire to learn. So, as they were not able to attend the schools during that period, that was seen as indiscipline. So, children, so here we have completed with the revision of the two main topics, how the British saw education and what happened to the local schools. Then the next topic, the last topic, that is the agenda for a national education, children, that you will be learning in the next video lesson. Okay, so till then, go through this presentation and go write the important points in your notebook somewhere or mark it in your textbook. Okay, so see you in the next session with the last topic of the chapter, last and important topic of the chapter. Till then, children, take very good care of your health.